On a dark, cold night like this, as Jack Frost paints the transparent aluminum with fractals of ice, I've decided to tell this tall tale. Like many, it has a message, and possibly a kernel of truth. The Inheritors. Star Trek Legends. Fools! Will I have to kill them all? The Klingon Corps to his assistant regarding the inhabitants of the planet Organia. Errand of Mercy, Star Trek, TOS. From all survey reports and personal accounts, the newly discovered planet was the New Eden. Billed as so Earth-like you hardly knew you were billions of miles from home. Eager colonists flocked to this pristine world filled with the promise of a new and better life. They planned and built a capital city, complete with assembly hall, governor's residence, and all the places people need. The world was productive and generous, providing the colonists with all they needed and more. As time progressed, the colony flourished and grew wealthy. Then, something happened. A dark cloud fell over the world. His name? Hitler, Stalin, Hussein, Bin Laden, Khan, Beale, Kodos, Galderiel, is not important. Best thrown into history's cesspools and forgotten. For being remembered, they are also honored. Suffice it to say that he, like the company he belonged to, thought his vision was the only one that mattered, and if you didn't agree, you should die. What followed was predictable. War, destruction, death, darkness. This Eden, like so many others, became a hell. The Federation, following its policy of non-interfering, did nothing but ban its ships from visiting the world. So, for a long time, nothing was known of the ending, until now. The family huddles together for warmth in the below-ground level of the ruins. They had spent the summer in the mountains, hiding from raiding parties. They had gathered and preserved food and prepared for the coming winter. They had intended upon spending the winter in a cave in the mountains, but so had a group of the planet's bear-like omnivores. Unarmed, the father decided hiding in or near the city would be better than fighting the bears. Besides, he hoped that with the winter came a slowdown in the war. They had found this place, once a comfortable upscale residence for one of the planet's well-to-do citizens, now just a bombed-out, blackened shell like so many others around it. With nothing of value in the area, the father had hoped no one would be snooping around. Now the sound tells him his hopes might have been in vain. The sound, the crunch of snow under a boot, signals someone's approach. The father tries to judge the number of those approaching and the direction by the sound, but, like most humans, find it impossible. A gentleman by nature, the father searches the area for a weapon to protect his family. All he can find, a thin wooden plank. Not much against a phaser, he thinks, as the footfalls continue to come closer. The father hopes whoever it is goes on his way. His hopes are dashed as he hears the creak of the stairs that lead down to his family's hiding place. The father raises the plank, takes a deep, silent breath, and swings in the direction of the approaching intruder. Seeing who it is, he manages to stop the plank's arc just inches from the head of the dirty, rag-clad, shivering little girl. The child steps back. Her brown eyes, wide with fright, begin to fill with tears. With a rush of maternal instinct, and probably fearing her crying might bring others, the mother hurries to the child, picks her up, dries her tears, and comforts her. They question the child and found out her parents are dead. Her mother, just a few days ago from a cough, brought on by the cold, and probably, judging from the condition of the little girl, lack of food. After cleaning her up, the family and its guests sit down for the evening meal. With the meal over, the family and its guests prepares for a cold night's sleep. Just as they are all dozing off, it begins. Softly, faintly at first, a sound carried on and blending with the bitterly cold wind. The sound grows louder. The sound of voices. The sound of voices singing. The father looks at the mother, silently asking, "Do you hear what I hear?" Their questions are answered by their youngest, asking sleepily, "Mommy, who's singing?" Try as they might, the family cannot ignore the sound. Finally, consumed with curiosity, and a bit angry that someone could be singing in this place now, the father announces, "I'm going to find out what's happening." He attempts to convince his wife to remain in the shelter with the children, but using the female logic of, "It's better if we all face what's happening as a family," she gets the children up and readies them for the journey. The group cautiously emerges from the ruins and heads in the direction the sound seems to be coming from. Through the dark, dirty streets they pick their way, trying to stay in the shadows. the sound growing ever louder. They follow the sound of the singing to its source, the assembly hall. As his family hides in the shadows, the father cautiously approaches the closed doors, his trembling hand reaching for the handles. With one last look towards his wife and children, he flings wide the doors. Animals! The singing was the sound of the colonists' animals, howls and yowls distorted by and added to the icy wind. The last of the colonists, finally giving up their differences, had sought shelter from the cold in the hall. Like most humans, they couldn't bear to leave their beloved pets to fend for themselves, so they brought them along. Unfortunately, their animals were better equipped to survive the cold than their owners. The humans had all frozen to death. Their pets, hungry, thirsty, and imprisoned, had begun to panic and call for help. Actually, I've heard two different versions of this story. Humans tend to tell this version. More animal-looking humanoids, and those that embrace a different view of life, say that the colonists' pets were not calling for help, but saying a requiem for their foolish companions.